in your face.
Wow. Sarah. And how about the other woman?
See her arms?
Fit. Gun show. Hey, if you want to go see their show, 7 West Rittner Street, South Philadelphia. The matches are tonight and Saturday night and Sunday afternoon.
Get a little Sunday matinee action going on.
Yeah, go to church and then go over there Sunday afternoon.
If someone asks Jim who is the greatest wrestler of all time, who would he say?
But you can't just say so-and-so was the greatest of all time ever at this.
I don't want to toot my own horn, but toot. I may get the chair, but I'm going to kill him. No, I'm going to tell you what. I might just torture him, and then I'm going to kill him.
He had great matches all the time with everybody, really, though.
Let me be a mid-card wrestler. Let me just scramble around. Treat me like a piece of garbage. Feed me garbage.
Let me tell you something. I'm hungry. I am really hungry.
He doesn't like Colt Cabana. That's not a secret.
Never in my sickest dreams did I imagine that there would be other people taking dives onto concrete floors, committing human suicide on my behalf. Like I'm the patron saint of the Six Sons of Bitches.
Welcome to the patron saints of Six Sons of Bitches, your favorite semi-regular greatest wrestler ever podcast, which we will have a specific tagline for, hopefully, by our next episode. My name is Genie of Live Laugh Liger Bomb. I am joined, as always, by Colette Aaron. How are you? Of Big Egg. How are you today, Colette?
I'm doing great, Orchid. How are you? That was a tremendous intro.
Thank you. I'm good at those. If there's one thing I'm good at, it's podcasting.
Like every week, it's like we're learning a new segment of the podcast industry. Like one week we're like, we will eventually have a website. We will eventually have a tagline. Like we really should have just started this with like eventually, like we just start with the theme music and it'll be like eventually we'll have a podcast.
Yeah. This has been a very fun exercise, I think, for both of us. I think we can both agree this has far exceeded our expectations.
They don't teach you how to do actually successful things when you get an MFA in poetry.
No, they don't. They really don't. Or fiction, which is what mine's in.
Oh, yours is in fiction? Wow.
Mine is in fiction.
Wow, you should be doing so much better than me.
I should, but alas, I'm not. It's funny, though, because I feel like the last time we tried a project like this, we were also flying by the seat of our pants, and it did much better than we anticipated it would. So you'd think we would fucking learn, but I guess not.
Yeah, that was years ago. I was still drinking heavy.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Whale Prom. Shout out to the patron saints of Six Sons of Bitches. Yeah. I don't want to waste any time
let's not
this week because we are talking about a wrestler who is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Like when we spun the wheel and made the deal last week, I was overjoyed that this early in the podcast we get to talk about truly one of the legends of the game, someone who you, it turns out, are kind of almost entirely new to, that being Sara Del Rey, otherwise known as Sarah Amato. She is currently, I believe, the assistant head coach of the WWE Performance Center. But for those of you who would hold such things against wrestlers or former wrestlers, I ask you to set that aside and take a trip with Orchid and I to, the halcyon days of 12 years ago, when such things did not matter so much and people were kind of happy about her for that because, like, there weren't many options, and she like was just so fucking phenomenal that like her getting notice from a major promotion felt like a minor miracle in any way, shape, or form. And then I want you to take a trip back to us for the actual 10 years of her career, which we will be covering over the course of this podcast. And I gotta say, like, I've seen you tweet about this on social media platform, Twitter, the Everything app, and on Blue Sky. I kind of have a feeling as to where this is going, so I just want to formally, not formally, I want to introduce you to the fucking fan club. It's about goddamn time you were here. Somebody who loves Joshi wrestling so much. That sounded great. I sounded like I just slurred the word wrestling. Joshi Wrestling. For someone who loves Joshi Wrestling so fucking much, to have not seen any Sara Del Rey outside of the one match that you'd seen before this podcast, welcome officially. Tell me what you think about Sara Del Rey, like in brief, like to kind of set us up here before we. This is your journey more than mine. I've been talking about how great Sara Del Rey is for 15 years.
You have. Yes, you have. And that's one thing to point to. This is not the first time that you've recommended I watch a Sara Del Rey match. This is the first time that I have forced to follow your recommendation because we have a project related to it.
It happens. This is the thing about being like quote unquote one of the good wrestling critics, is that like if there were any follow through on my recommendations, wrestling would be much better.
Fair. And another thing too that I am learning as somebody who now operates 2 podcasts is that the more podcasts you run, the harder it is to stay up on top of wrestling. I did say that I had somebody in my top 40 for 2026 on the Violent People Discord this week. And someone was like, can you recommend some matches? And I was like, fuck no. I just bought a Shimmer subscription. No, I can't recommend some random
living in the
Yoshi's
past,
matches.
baby.
Yeah,
living
completely.
in the past. Welcome to my world.
Yep. And I think that's one of the fun things of wrestling too, is like the more you get in the weeds with it, the more you learn about it, the eager you are to learn about it, the harder it is to just like stay on top of it. There's just so much to watch. But my thoughts on Sara Del Rey. I mean, you know, I really want to bury the lead, because like in my own head, I have a path through how I want to get to certain things about, the way I feel about Sara Del Rey. I think that broadly, the journey we will be going down together, since this is largely my journey, apparently, which you did tell me. You didn't say I'm not coming to this, you know, blind entirely. I almost want to like laser and focus on the first match that I watched just to kind of start, which would have been Super Dragon versus Nikki. And do you have the year on this or the promotion? I think the promotion is APW.
It's APW. I think it's maybe 2009. Also, I am forcing this to be your journey because if it was mine, it would be the length of the Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King extended editions. So yeah, I think starting with Super Dragon and Sarah and Nikki, that's going to be really hard for me.
It's
like
only one match.
Starting there is an interesting one. I think it's one of those deals where like this is not something that you would expect to start a Sara Del Rey podcast with, but yeah, it's a intergender match between Super Dragon from the then what was known as the Epic War promotion, that was his promotion at the time, and kind of a standout of Roland Alexander's school, Sara Del Rey, who was then known as Nikki, and I think it's kind of a precursor of things to come for her career, particularly later in, you know, CHIKARA, sort of like the sort of like intergender stuff that she becomes really known for.
Yep. And I think it's an interesting match to start on. And the reason why I picked it and I put it on the playlist had nothing to do with gender and more to do with just I wanted to find something as like early in her career as humanly possible. And this would have been, the date on this was 9/13/2022. And so I think this would have been maybe...
No, that's 2002, big dog.
Did I say 1992?
You said 2022.
2022 is definitely not 2022. You said
2002. This is
so.
her first year in wrestling, I believe.
Yeah. Yes. This was within the first 30 matches of her career. This is one of the earliest ones I could find. And in large part, for full transparency, it was not the first match that I watched, but it was the earliest I was able to find. And the reason why I wanted to start with this match specifically is because when we think about how modern American wrestling operates these days, we already talked about her being the head trainer at WWE. We'll touch on that, I'm sure, at various points. I hope as little as humanly possible. I do want this to be a celebration of this woman's career. But I also, when you think about also Joshi wrestling, and especially the modern day and age, so many of the folks who are bigger names in both America and Japan have been trained by women. I really wanted to find a match from Sara Del Rey / Nikki early in her career, largely because of something that does become a focal point in the early bits of her career, not as much in the later years, but she was trained by the American Dragon. And it seemed fitting to me that to start a match off with, I don't know how you feel about Super Dragon. I have so many complicated feelings and emotions about the guy that mostly land with, I don't want to watch him wrestle 20 minutes. And unfortunately, most of his matches are about 20 minutes long. I just thought that it was just going to be a really interesting kind of in point to discuss how she came to become, or how she got her start in wrestling to begin with. So, I don't know. Do you have any immediate thoughts watching the specific match and maybe thinking about her trainer?
In thinking about her and Danielson, I think that is kind of like a through line in her career, like all the way to the last match that we'll be talking about today, like the Eddie Kingston match in CHIKARA, where by that point she has adopted the label lock as one of her finishes, and fans are throwing the yes chant up in the air. Like, she's always been pretty closely associated with Danielson. I don't know like biographical details to that extent, but like I think that might be part of the reason that she ends up like at the Inoki Dojo. She and Danielson share the Final Countdown as a theme song on the Indies, and I think Sara Del Rey had it first actually. When it comes to this match, I don't know how to link that to Danielson outside of just kind of like noting how technical Del Rey is in this match. Like, she's very focused on, using her leverage to keep Super Dragon grounded, working holds, keeping things to the mat, and Super Dragon is by contrast a fucking asshole who like at one point puts her in a tree of woe and then puts all of his weight on her pelvis while she's hanging upside down. It's one of those things where I think that because she spent such a long time as a heel, particularly in CHIKARA, also to some extent in Shimmer, and also in Ring of Honor, where she was part of the Kings of Wrestling and Sweet and Sour International, there's like this perception of Del Rey as being kind of more of a heel than a babyface wrestler, but I think she's a magnificent babyface and like has that like this like knack for engendering sympathy very early on in her career. And I think that the nice thing about that, watching this match from her first year in wrestling, is that it is not because she is a woman wrestling a man that you feel sympathy for her, but because she is somebody who is taking a tremendous amount of abuse as like a young wrestler against a more seasoned, established, veteran presence who is not wrestling Sara Del Rey any differently than he would have wrestled anyone else on the card. And I think that the fact that is something that is true of her in her first year and is true of her in her last year says a lot to the overall quality of her career.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason why I wanted to bring this match up, and when I work on an intro, we will hopefully point to the fact that we create a syllabus for every one of these episodes that we share on our brand new website, patronsaints.club. And great work on that, by the way. I think the reason why I wanted to sort of bring this match up, we won't always talk about every match on the syllabus, but I know that one of the ones that you're very eager to talk about is the match against Mercedes Martinez, and I'm assuming this is one because it's very significant to you. I'm assuming
I think it's significant to independent wrestling in the year 2005 and the years 2000 to 2026. Like it is. I said this to you in a DM on Discord, but like I think that this has an argument as being one of the most important matches of the decade, and certainly the year, and that is a year that has a lot of very important matches.
Sure.
It's a high watermark year, I guess, if you're a fan of like the Unbreakable 3-Way or whatever. Like it's a big year for pro wrestling, and I think that match against Mercedes Martinez at Shimmer Volume 1, the semi-main event, first time ever dream match, East Coast, West Coast battle. I do think that is one of the most important matches that we cover. I don't know if it's the best match that we cover today.
Yeah.
Like there's the Chikara stuff is so good. And there's like other things that I should have put on the syllabus but didn't. I want to shout out real quick to anyone who's listening early. Like if you have not seen an actual match by the legendary Technico Cassandro, a really easy starting point to get acquainted with him is the match that he had against Sara Del Rey in IWA Mid-South. I believe that's available on YouTube for free as well. And it's super fun because Cassandro is just as much of a bully as Sara Del Rey is in the ring, and it's great. But like there's just so many different things that you can pick and choose from Del Rey's career. Like how do you choose between this and then like the rematch or any other match between her and Mercedes? Like it's tough to pick, but I definitely want to save talking about why I think that the first match between the two of them is so important until we're like talking about Shimmer as like kind of a whole.
Well, let's get right to that. I think the reason why I picked this match, this is my kind of way of closing out on Super Dragon and pivoting to us to talk about Shimmer, which I am more excited about talking about than I have been anything since we started this podcast together. But what really just sticks out to me is that, and this is arguable, probably, but I think for a long period of her time, of her early career, Sara remains virtually peerless, especially in terms of her gender. And I think part of the reason why I went with the Super Dragon match is that to me, it makes sense that somebody who, oh man, you were talking, before we started recording about, needing to set the scene for what women's, indie wrestling looked like. And all I was thinking about during this match was, man, what the fuck was women's wrestling at the major company in America like at this particular point? It was fucking disgusting, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that it's so interesting to me in that, like, here is somebody who's absolutely going to take this seriously at this specific point in time, which is such an interesting time for America, if you're a woman, especially. And I'm sure we'll talk about that at various points. I know I have it in my closing statement. But it just really stuck out to me that, like, somebody who's going to take this craft as seriously, train in the Inoki Dojo, learn with Bryan Danielson, would have to wrestle some of her earlier matches before she goes to Japan against a man being Super Dragon. So I think, like, maybe, because I know one of the questions that I had for you is, like, hopefully you can give us some brief rundown, if possible, about the history of Shimmer, or at least, like, why it was important. And I think, like, maybe this is, like, kind of the perfect place to at least, like, you know, pivot into talking about Shimmer.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so far as Shimmer goes, it is a independent professional wrestling promotion that was founded by commentator Dave Prazak and wrestler Allison Danger. It was based in Berwyn, Illinois, which is pretty conveniently the midway point between the west and east coast of the United States, which was significant because slowly over the course of time, there was kind of a burgeoning movement of women's wrestling on the independents that had a distinctly different feel and tone than what people had become accustomed to seeing, as a consequence of, you know, both as a consequence of WWE's inattention to and outright, like, disavowment of the form. People speak pretty frequently in very negative tones about quote unquote divas wrestling, which is what WWE branded their women's division as, and eventually is what they called their title. And I think to some extent that's pretty frequently unfair to the women who actually had to work in WWE. Like, they were doing their best under horrific circumstances. Some of the women had years of training. Some of the women were hired out of swimsuit modeling catalogs by John Laurinaitis and thrown into the ring and in front of the wolves, and were expected to just kind of, like, do whatever for 3 minutes at a time. But on the indies, you had people like Sara Del Rey and Mercedes Martinez coming up on their respective coasts, and a whole host of other women who were also kind of paving the way for a style of wrestling that I feel like is almost taken for granted these days, because what they were doing in Shimmer is basically what you see on, to some extent on AEW and WWE television today. I think that the big public breakthrough for women's wrestling is largely considered to be the TNA Knockouts division, particularly the feud between Gail Kim and Awesome Kong. But for me, the most important stuff is always going to be Shimmer, which is itself kind of the culmination of a couple of different indie wrestling promotions, particularly IWA Mid-South and APW, running like shows that were not that didn't feature much of like their male roster. Like they were all women's shows, or they were shows that were mostly women's wrestling that featured like an opening match that was like dudes or whatever. And also wrestling websites like Click Wrestle, which allowed patrons to purchase one match at a time for $1.99 a piece, if I remember correctly. That website is still in existence, by the way. But back then, like it was just a thing that existed, and you could like buy the women's match that happened at like, I don't know, whatever promotion. I don't even know what promotions existed back then. Epic War. Let's just, give Super Dragon another shout again, I guess. But the thing about those efforts, like IWA Mid-South's Volcano Girls, for example, is that there was kind of an element of othering to them, and also a sense that, frankly, they could go away at any time. I know from my time working on the independents, particularly as somebody who worked the women's shows at AIW, that the perception within the industry is that shows that featured mostly female talent were considered to be more expensive than your average show, and that they also drew a less sizable gate. What bookers and promoters and stuff were largely depending on when they were booking shows like this was DVD sales, and then like eventually like YouTube revenue. And I think that when you watch a lot of those shows, there is an element of friction to them because of that, because the crowd often treats the female talent terribly, or commentary cannot stop making comments about how much they'd like to date the wrestlers, and all of that. So like it was very clear that there needed to be a third and separate space for women's professional wrestling in the US. The talent justified it, and there were thankfully people who were willing to work exceptionally hard to make it possible, and that is what Shimmer was and what it became. Like Shimmer kind of set the standard for women's wrestling in the United States immediately. They're like, I feel like the alternative when it comes to attempts at making an all women's promotion that stands on its own without there being like some real form of attachment to like another indie promotion are things like Wrestlelicious or like other kind of like Glow knockoffs. But this was not that. Like this was an attempt to present women's wrestling as seriously and as like respectfully as a lot of like Joshi wrestling does. How respectful and sincere you think Joshi promotions promote women's wrestling, being subjective, I suppose. But Shimmer was very serious about it.
My head.
Well, I'm
kidding.
I've seen, shows here and there. But yeah, I think that like Shimmer was like one of those things that like it feels like it's really difficult to actually put in context how important this promotion was, except to say like, look at, the laundry list of women who've come through WWE, TNA, AEW, NXT, like any of those, and you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who hasn't worked a Shimmer show, like from Natalya Neidhart and Beth Phoenix to Sara Del Rey to Mercedes Martinez to Toni Storm to Asuka to like
Hailey.
Io Sky. Like all of those people have had time in Shimmer because it was seen as important enough to make a destination for women's wrestling in the United States that treated it seriously and that presented it as like no questions asked, like important and real and artistic and like sporting. It's in my estimation, and I know that there are other very important independent wrestling promotions out there, it is the most important independent professional wrestling organization in the history of the United States of America. I don't say that lightly. I'm a huge fan of ECW. I like ROH a lot. I am a massive fan of CHIKARA. And I know that there are promotions that are even more successful than all of those that have existed on a quasi-independent basis, depending on what your definition of independent is. But Shimmer is yet to be topped in terms of like just quality of wrestling overall throughout its long tenured run. And you know, every independent wrestling company that's ever existed post ROH has tried to some extent to chase what they have. None of them could chase what Shimmer had. It's a completely unique point in time. It's a completely unique space. It is desperately and sadly missed, honestly. I'm a little sad. Like I can hear like my voice welling up talking about like how great Shimmer was. So if it ever does come back, awesome. But yeah, like it's something else. Like it's one of those things where like, you know, it's a third space that was absolutely necessary to wrestling in its time and place, and I think is still necessary now and is sorely missing. But yeah, I've introduced Shimmer in a way that might be difficult to just go back to you know, talking about matches in specific, but
I don't
Sara
think so.
Del Rey was one of like the bellwether like talents of that promotion, and her match against Mercedes Martinez on Volume 1, I think, set an extremely high bar for the promotion and made a statement that like this is what it is capable, like this is what women's wrestling is capable of being when you give it time, when you give it attention, when you give it care, and when you let women be talented and themselves without asking them to also be sexy for the sake of some fucking 67-year-old pervert in the back on the headphones asking, you know, why can't I see her ass? Like, it just didn't exist. Like it's a total revolution. And these two women in particular, I think were early leaders in that and really shepherded a lot of the discourse about what women's wrestling could be, particularly at this point in time.
I thank you for that. I have dipped my toes into Shimmer exactly 2 times, this being the second. The first time was when you, I want to say 3 years ago, wrote about cheerleader Melissa. Oh my God, cheerleader Melissa versus Madison Eagles, which I think you might have argued is the. Did you say that was like the best women's match in America?
I think that's a Joseph opinion.
That's a Joseph opinion. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joseph is a huge Madison Eagles fan, and so am I. I think
that.
Madison Eagles is great.
Incredible.
But yeah, we did a whole Shimmer month at Big Egg.
Yeah. And so this would be the second time that I did my toes into it. And in both instances, it is always a promotion that I think invites you to learn more about it, which is like what's fucking incredible about it. Both times, the Big Egg month and for this podcast, I went ahead and purchased a Shimmer subscription. The last one ran really long without me watching it. This one I did cancel immediately because boy, oh boy, do we have a lot of wrestling to talk about. But each time I've done it, I have expanded beyond like what I sought out to watch in the first place. And the thing that I just love about it is that like, unlike some other women's promotions that I know of that are non-Eastern, I'm thinking mostly of Pro Wrestling Eve, which I am going to avoid saying things about because I already piss off the people who love that man enough. But the thing that I really like about Shimmer is that like every time you watch like one show, it is referencing things that have happened in the past and it is talking about things that are happening in the future. It is not a showcase, right? Like I've seen a lot of like old women shows in the last like 4 or 5 years that are trying to either just be like, oh, this is a moment, like oh, look at us, we're uplifting women, and they don't run another show for like 5 months, or it's like they're just in Vegas and there is a history to it, but like fuck all if you're going to be able to like find where those shows are, and if you are, the attention to detail about the feuds, the stables, the belts is just so lost. And I think that's like one of the things that I appreciate the most is that like I watch one match on Shimmer and I'm like, oh, this is Shimmer show 1. When does the Shimmer's women's title get introduced? And that leads me down a tournament where I'm watching the whole show on Shimmer Volume 5, which is the tournament where they're actually deciding who's the first champion is going to be. So just Amy, just to say that, like, yeah, I mean, I think you did a fantastic job encapsulating it. And I think you already did mention the thing that this match is billed as is the best wrestler on the East Coast versus the best wrestler on the West Coast.
Yeah.
With Mercedes being mostly out of Baltimore. Is that correct?
Oh, that's a good question.
I feel like I only know that I'm like 80% sure it's Baltimore, and that's just because I lived in the DMV for 10 years. Let me go check to make sure, but I'm pretty positive she's a Baltimore person. I know I made a mistake on someone's zodiac sign last week, so I'm I don't want to screw up the DMV on top of that. But yeah, so did you watch this match like while it happened? I do know in some of your other writings that you largely were adverse to some indie wrestling at this particular point.
Yeah, I came to Shimmer kind of late. I came to Shimmer because of Sara Del Rey, though. Like my first indie show, as I've mentioned elsewhere, and possibly on this podcast, was a CHIKARA show, in Taylor, Michigan, called We Must Eat Michigan's Brain. That was, the headline match was Bryan Danielson, like weeks after getting fired from WWE, versus Eddie Kingston, and I knew nothing about any of the other wrestlers on the show. But seeing Sara come out, I don't even know if she wrestled that night or if she was just like accompanying Claudio Castagnoli on like Bruderschaft des Cresus business. I was immediately like, holy shit. Like, I didn't know that like women wrestlers could like look like this, sort of thing. Even though I think, Beth Phoenix had been around and all that. But like, I was immediately like pretty captivated by like what she represented, and went looking, and you find a lot of her stuff on Shimmer, and you could just fill in stuff from there. I bought a lot of like best of DVDs, and also torrented volumes 1 through 42. Sorry, Dave. But I've paid back to the indies and to Shimmer over the years. So yeah, no, I found Sara through CHIKARA, and then found Shimmer through CHIKARA, and I like it's just one of those things where like how like what you were saying, where you got the Shimmer subscription so that you could watch some Sara Del Rey matches, and then started watching like outside of the context of what you were doing for the show.
Just knee deep in some Serena Deeb.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
God.
I will never be able to get with other people on thinking that Serena Deeb is boring, because for the life of me, I fucking lived and died for Serena Deeb matches. Like particularly like when she went to Japan after getting fired from WWE and was like wrestling Kana and like fucking Tajiri, like that shit. Whoa, don't tempt me. I will put her on the wheel. And like whatever. It's just there's so much to dig in with Shimmer. But yeah, I was averse to the indies, and I think that that's the reason why the two biggest ones to me are CHIKARA and Shimmer, is because they both, again, created a space that felt separate from what I was acquainted to in Ring of Honor, where when my friend said you should watch Ring of Honor, there's all these great wrestlers in it. Like, he put me on to the first Ring of Honor show, where like the first thing you see is the Christopher Street Connection getting the shit kicked out of them because they're gay. And like that's the whole point of it, is like, look at these gay twinks, they're getting destroyed. And it was like, well, I was pretty deeply in the closet at the time, but that doesn't mean that it feels good. And I don't have a jobber squash fetish, unlike my,
I'm so sorry.
What we talked about during the Fred Ottman episode would imply. But no, Shimmer was very easy to keep up with, because they basically like did tapings. Like the the way that it would work was they would basically book the Berwyn Eagles Club for a weekend and fly all the women into Berwyn, and they would, I think, do 2 episodes on Saturday, or 2 volumes on Saturday and 2 volumes on Sunday. And then over the course of the successive months, they would release the DVDs. And this was before streaming and before iPay-per-view, so it was very easy to keep up with. And it was very worth the time. Like, you would always discover someone new, and then you could trace them to, like, you know, NCW Femme Fatale up in Canada, or, like, you know, here's someone wrestling in AIW. Like, I learned so much about wrestling through watching Shimmer, and it's one of those things where, like, I'm again, like, I'm so happy you're here, Orchid. Like, this is just, for me, like, anyone that I can bring to this particular table is one more for the good guys in my estimation. So yeah, God, this is, I wasn't really expecting to be like this emotional about this.
That's
but,
so
like,
funny.
well,
I'm emotional, and
like,
I barely know the woman.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, you know, for me, it's something where, like, my I don't want to call it like my professional life or whatever, but, like, you know, for those of you who don't know, there was a time long ago where I was a color commentator in independent professional wrestling. And again, that was, like, something where, like, I had the dream, like many of us who cannot throw a drop kick or a convincing working punch do, of playing Jim Ross for one evening. And there's a professional wrestling promotion in Cleveland, Ohio called Absolute Intense Wrestling that was looking to upgrade their cameras one year. So they threw a GoFundMe that did not do particularly well. I don't think that they made their goal, but one of their perks was for $75 you could call any match you wanted. And me, being a mark, gave them $75. And them, being uncharacteristically people of their word, allowed me to call any match that I wanted. And the match that I called was Sara Del Rey versus Mickey Knuckles at an AIW Girls Night Out event.
How did that not make the fucking syllabus?
It's on the syllabus.
Is it? Oh, it is. Is it the 30-minute match?
Yeah, it's not a 30-minute match. Like, that's actually like a video full of highlights that was put together to promote Sarah's last show at AIW, which is actually her third to last match, which I had the privilege of calling. I, you know, passed the test, whatever that test was, with, like, flying colors. There was the regular color commentator, Aaron Bauer, was, like, on standby to interrupt and, like, kick me out of the booth if I flopped while calling a match with Ricky Shane Page. But I did well, and I called wrestling for, like, 2 years because I showed up prepared and ready, and, like, knew the history and knew the moves, and like, had a deep love and affection for Sarah, and like, as a performer, and also for Mickey Knuckles. And it came through, and I, you know, for basically the course of my MFA at Bowling Green, like, I was going to Cleveland one weekend a month to call pro wrestling, and I got to do more than just, you know, Sara Del Rey matches, obviously. But, like, I would have never had the thought of doing that were it not for the possibility of, like, calling one of her matches. Like, it was very important to me that it was, like, a Sara Del Rey match, because she was the wrestler that I cared the most about, like, in the world of professional wrestling. And, like, you know, there are moments in that run for me where, like, I remember going to an after party after one of the Girls Night Out shows, and it was the Royal Rumble that Awesome Kong was a surprise entrant in, and, like, seeing Sarah see one of her peers and, like, most notable rivals like, be in the Royal Rumble, like, was like a legitimate privilege. Like, just so cool to see. Like, you know, like, when you see, like, one of your friends, like I don't know, like like, get, like, a book deal or whatever, like, to speak in our parlance, I guess. Like, it was kind of like that, but, like, you know, also just, like, you know, that was, like, a thing, like, a goal for herself as well. Not the Royal Rumble, but, like, getting the call to work for WWE was, like, her goal. That was something that she was working towards, like, her whole life basically. And like, I think that at the point that she got the call to be a coach at the Performance Center was like basically like kind of her like do or die year. Like, I'm either going to get hired by the Fed or I'm going to start fading out, because 10 years is a long time to be on the indies. And like going back and watching all of the stuff that took place before I knew her as a wrestler or even like as a person, is just like, she just always fucking had it. Like, she always had it. Like, no fucking shit. She was going to wind up being the ace of the women's wrestling promotion that exists in the United States of America. You know, like, how do you not watch her against Mercedes Martinez or against Lacey or against Awesome Kong or like anyone who came through Berwyn and not be absolutely fucking like blown away? Like, even I think that on Big Egg, like, I was disappointed with the Kong Del Rey match that we covered, because like it ended in, you know, a non-traditional way, and I wasn't super stoked about it or whatever, as I sometimes do. But like like for them to be able to make moments at this like little bar in Berwyn feel as special and meaningful and significant as, you know, WrestleMania main event stuff that happens now for women is like, just it's so hard to quantify. It's really hard to put into words, actually.
Well, good thing we have a podcast about it.
Yeah, I know.
Let me try to bring it back to this specific match. I mean, there are a number of matches we could talk about when it comes to Shimmer. I know this is the one that like you're most eager enthusiastic to talk about, though. So, I think try to figure out the best way to like kind of bring us back to it. I think that, let me just ask, what makes this match so important to you? If it is one of the most important ones.
Well, I mean, what makes it so important now, or what makes it so important then is what I talked about earlier, where it's like, here's the bar that is being established for Shimmer, and it is incredibly high. And like within a couple of shows, like I think that Shimmer Volume 1, according to Cage Match, drew 75 people. Which I think like
that might be aggressive.
If you play TEW or whatever, Extreme Warfare Revenge, like I think that if you draw 75 to a card, you're doing pretty bad. But like by the time you get to like the Lacey match that is on our syllabus, like that is a packed crowd, and it will be packed basically until Shimmer stops running. But what makes the match important is like how much it lives up to the promise that is established by it. Like, I don't know, going back to 2005 or whatever, like how legitimately important or excited anyone but like the most hardcore nerd in the room would have been about the prospect of the best women's wrestler on the East Coast versus the best women's wrestler on the West Coast. But what they end up doing throughout the course of the match is showing a potential future for themselves, both as individual wrestlers and as rivals, and showing a potential future for this promotion that they live up to. I think that this match is better than the No Time Limit rematch, just because like I don't know why the listing on Cage Match, again, I like it says that it's an 18-minute, 20-minute time limit draw. I don't know. I don't keep a stopwatch. I tend to just like, you know, let the bell be the judge of how long things have gone. But like just the kind of like subtle escalation between two women who've never wrestled each other before, like getting to know like each other's kind of like small focal points, weaknesses, and like figuring out like, okay, like Mercedes might be a better striker than I am, so I have to work on like, you know, my holds, and then Mercedes countering that with some pretty devastating strikes. Like Sara Del Rey using the hip attack to like soften up her neck, working for the power bomb. There's so many near escapes of this that are so good, and by the time the timekeeper says that like 15 minutes have gone by and 5 remain, it feels like no time has elapsed. Like it feels like all of that just happened in like the blink of an eye, and then they just start trying to beat each other, and it's like just this like competitive template that like frankly you don't see that often in men's wrestling either. Like
Not
It's
at all.
something
Yep.
like, I think that you do see it with like your Bryan Danielsons and your Lokis and Samoa Joes and stuff like that. But once you're talking about those wrestlers, you were talking about some of the greatest wrestlers to have ever fucking done it, particularly in the United States of America. And for these two women to stroll into the Berwyn Eagles Club in front of 75 people, 2 cameramen, a couple of commentators, and the folks who staff the bar, and to make a stamp as significant as the one that they did, I think is incredibly special and is the sort of thing that is really only possible at independent professional wrestling shows. This is why you should go to indie shows if any are near you. Like they won't all be like this. Most of them will not be like this, frankly, but the chances that you will see something that will forever indelibly shape the way that you see pro wrestling are greater than you think. And I think that is the promise that this match lays out for people who do come in for these shows. And I'll be goddamned if every fucking volume of Shimmer doesn't rise to this occasion or exceed it. It's a special match on a special card, and it is worth going back and experiencing, particularly if you have not. But also if you ever feel jaded about the state of women's wrestling in this country, which is easy to be. Lord knows I am. Like it's both a moment where it's like, wow, we've really come a long way, but also, holy shit, we're the forerunners of this scene, head and shoulders above basically everyone who came after them. I don't know. Like it's a fucking mic drop match. It's so fucking good.
I think one of the things that a promotion like this would have been up against in the context that you set is that, I mean, wrestling is myth building, right? Like you have to, especially like when you're a new promotion, like you have to figure out like a hook in some way, shape, or form to get folks on. And I think that like what's incredibly interesting about this match is that it is pitted, as to your point, like it's pitted as the best in the East Coast versus the best of the West Coast happening in, a central time zone. And how the fuck do you get anybody to care about that when the audience who has been caring about wrestling Ring of Honor has not yet had a women's match at this point, correct?
Right.
If they have, it's been very right. Yeah, that's what I figured. So like, how do you even like get them to get anyone to care about in the first place? You have to do some sort of like myth building. And I think what's so incredible about this match is that like it absolutely does make good on that myth. And it does set up and establish what the tone of women's wrestling is going to look like, at least through this lens, right? Obviously, it's going to touch a lot of different other promotions. It's going to influence and impact a lot of different other promotions. But I asked you a really wacky question on Friday night. Like one of my favorite things that you do is, especially when it's somebody who's on the wheel that you're really adamant about, is like midway through the recording period or some point during the recording period, you just ask me how X wrestler is treating me, right? And I had just started this match when you asked that question. And within 15 minutes, I don't know if it was in a nootropic or a benzo-induced haze, but I asked you what I thought was an insane question, and I still feel like it's an insane question. And it felt like an insane question when I asked you, is Sara Del Rey the first like women's wrestler in America who did not wrestle like a woman? And I don't know why the fuck I asked that question, but one thing that did stick out to me about this match, is to your point, is that it does follow the template that a lot of independent wrestling is going to follow beyond this point, and had before, right, in IWA and Ring of Honor, but it's not centered around anything besides like, how are our clashing styles going to, collide together, and what is going to come of it? And it absolutely just makes good on that promise. If this is what the best in the East Coast looks like, it is clearly defined. It is somebody who is going to try to beat the ever-loving shit out of you. And if this is what the best in the West Coast looks like, it is clearly defined. This is somebody who's going to try to like take some sort of technical approach towards a match. Not to say neither of them aren't borrowing from both styles in each ways. I mean, they're matched up pretty well against each other, but it clearly does, like, it is a mission statement for what not only the promotion is going to be, but for how the two of them are going to try to define what women's wrestling is going to look like, so long as they're involved in it. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think so. I like to go to your insane question though. Like I think that is doing kind of like a little bit of a disservice to like other wrestlers who were coming up at the same time. Like,
I love my hyperbole,
Your hyperbole is dope. But I mean, like, even on that first Shimmer card, you've got like your Mischiefs, and you've got Daisy Hayes. Mickey Knuckles, I think, is somebody who
love of my life.
Definitely qualifies as someone who wasn't wrestling like a diva or whatever.
Yeah.
And Mercedes Martinez, like Awesome Kong. Like Awesome Kong's whole fucking thing was that she didn't do that. But that's, it's like everyone was bringing something entirely different to the table at that point. And like, this is what happens when you have an expectation of what a certain form of wrestling should look like that is being set by the worldwide leader in sports entertainment.
Yeah.
But beneath that, you also have like a litany of women who love and appreciate and grew up watching wrestling, trained as wrestlers, put in the time, put in the effort, put in the hours on the road, the minutes in the ring, all of that stuff. Like it all existed. Like Lacey doesn't wrestle like a woman, I don't think, but I do think it's just one of those things, like a woman, I guess, parentheses derogatory. I don't know. Your hypothetical is, I think it says more about you than it says about other women.
Yeah, it fairly does.
But like,
I think
it is one of those things because like thinking about it, not to interrupt you, but like,
sure.
I do distinctly remember like the first time I saw Sara Del Rey get into the ring, I was like, she just got through the ring through the top and middle ropes, and I'm really used to seeing women like do that thing where they like crouch all the way down to the mat to like get through the middle and bottom rope so that they can, like let the pigeons loose, as Taz would later say. Like it's one of those things where like, I do think that like she is one of the first like American women wrestlers who wrestled as if like women weren't sex objects, but there is a line of people before her that were doing that as well, like Luna Vachon,
sure,
or not
100%.
Like Medusa, I think, is somebody else. Like there are wrestlers like that, but like they're few and far between because that's just like Vince McMahon, Vince Russo, like various Vinces throughout time and space just did not see the merit of that style of wrestling. So they presented it in a different light.
And a great thing about a half-baked thesis is it's half-baked. And I'm hoping by episode 30 or 40, this is a little more baked because I'm still working through how to figure this out.
Yeah.
But everyone that and I feel like this is like a great way to transition into another match because I know full well we could talk about this one for 90 minutes. But everyone who you named, Lacey, Awesome Kong, all of them reminded me of somebody who I have seen before. Maybe not in America, but like there's a template for that Awesome Kong is working from. There's a bit of a template that Lacey is working from. It's Japanese wrestling, and also too like there isn't tape for it, but like Lord knows that June Byers like wrestled some way, and that I'm sure was
Mildred Burke is really good.
Yeah, I haven't seen any tape on Mildred. Is there a tape on Mildred Burke out there?
I think that I might have like a Super 8 like custom.
Fuck yeah.
In my possession. But I don't have a Super 8 player, so I don't know. But also if you want a taste of Mildred Burke, like unfiltered Burke, you should watch the film, the 1981 film ... All the Marbles, starring Peter Falk, in which she is the person who did the stunt coordinating for the women's wrestling in the movie, where like it's 1981, it's pre-Hulkamania. They treat it as if like kayfabe is real, and like that the Pro Wrestling Illustrated is like a trade publication, which is very charming. But the wrestling looks mean and convincing and fast and like athletic. Like it's like basically like, what if you were watching, the Jumping Bomb Angels and the Glamour Gals on the big screen as opposed to like midway through a WWE card? Mildred Burke was I'm willing to say that she was a great trainer without having seen any of her matches.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean also too, like I know I'm doing a full disservice to like other matches as well with the statement I'm about to say, specifically like Akira Hokuto and Shinobu Kandori, but
someday Orchid, you're gonna listen to me when I pronounce her name Hokuto, and you're gonna.
No, I never will. That's not. It's part of my charm. Part of my charm is pronouncing names. Hokuto. Yeah, I'm not gonna get that. Poor Podrick. Bless his little heart. But anyway, I mean, these two women are just beating the fuck out of each other. We got to move on. Otherwise, we're going to be talking about this match for all eternity.
Watch Sara Del Rey and Shimmer, please.
Absolutely.
Watch Period.
Watch Volume 5 for the title when she beats Lacey for it. I think there's absolutely some beautiful things happening in terms of like sort of what she's doing from like establishing an archetype for her matches moving forward in that match. It's one of the first, that is the Lacey match. I don't want to spend too much time in the Lacey match because I think like we can talk about this point better in some other matches. But the thing I really appreciated about her in that match was that it really is the first match where to me it seems like she's like trying to figure out how to elevate workers who she is. Look, all these women rock. Sarah's incredible. I like on a level that like is so fucking difficult for me to comprehend.
It's crazy. I mean, it's just like one of those things where like I feel like when you ask that question, it's hard for me to say yes unequivocally, just because like we have a lot more Mercedes Martinez on tape than we do Sara Del Rey at this point.
Right.
And like I love Mercedes Martinez, and I think that she's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Eventually, we will probably have an episode about her. We will be old and feeble women by then, but it'll happen.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, no, like it's just tough to not look at someone like Sarah and like how skilled she is. Again, going back to one of her first matches, that Super Dragon match, and not be like, oh, this is different. Like this is different. Things are different from here on out. Things can be better if we allow them to be, or if we nudge them in that direction. Which I think is probably as good of a segue to a promotion that really did take that to heart with Sarah, that being CHIKARA.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I added this match to the syllabus, and What's CHIKARA match are we starting with?
Oh, wait, hold on. Did I accidentally skip something?
No, not at all. I
want to talk about the Hailey Hatred match because, like, quietly, I think that's my favorite match that we watched.
Oh, hell yeah.
I had not seen that one before. I've seen every match that we're talking about this week. Over the course of my long wrestling fandom, the Hailey Hatred match in JAPW is entirely different. Like that was brand new to me. I think that's a good place to go, largely because a better podcasting team would have this figured out and not say this on the air. No. Not to interrupt you. We're a fucking great podcasting team.
We are a great podcasting team.
Yeah.
We're only on episode 9.
Yeah.
I am just saying out loud something I probably should have told you before we hit record, which is that I want to figure out a way to talk about Mike Quackenbush as little as humanly possible on this specific episode. Sure. Which is not to say I don't want to talk about Mike Quackenbush, because boy, oh boy, do I have some thoughts.
But
I am very happy
about him.
Good, sweet. I think there's a way that if we pivot to the Hailey Hatred match, I think I feel good about how little I'm going to be able to talk about Mike Quackenbush in this episode. So yeah, let's get right into that.
Sick. So let's talk about what it's like to watch a great women's wrestling match in a promotion that doesn't give a fuck about it.
Right.
Sara Del Rey versus Hailey Hatred from Jersey All Pro Wrestling. A match that simultaneously thrilled me and made me fucking furious to be alive. Shit like this is why I became a commentator and was specifically focused on women's wrestling. For the record, this is a defense of Sara Del Rey's relatively new, from what I understand, Jersey All Pro Wrestling Women's Championship. It is a wild card match, which means that she does not know who she is wrestling. It is also a false count anywhere street fight, which is an insane thing to put on top of a wild card match. And it turns out that her opponent is Hailey Hatred, who is probably an unknown quantity to most people. I had the privilege of calling a couple of her matches in AIW because she's an Ohio native. So when she would come home,
she is. I never would have guessed that. That's incredible.
I mean,
okay.
She's an Ohio native. Like I said, she wrestled Sara Del Rey in Sarah's last AIW match, but here, I don't know. She's mostly known for her work on Japanese Joshi promotions in the late 2000s, early 2010s. I think she was in Odayo Tai, like one of the early versions of that.
Oh,
Stardom.
what?
Yeah,
that's amazing.
she's an early Stardom wrestler. She wrestled for Diana. She wrestled for Ice Ribbon. She's like basically like knew that the money for her was in Japan and spent most of her time there. But when she came back, like that, the fact that she worked in Japan meant that she was also like usually the biggest, baddest, meanest motherfucker on the card. One time I saw her absolutely brutalize Leva Bates in a way that I would categorize as uncomfortable, not just because Leva got zero offense and took like 800,000 suplexes, but because there was like a 30-minute dissertation from Leva before the match about tribbles, and I didn't know what those were because I hadn't seen Star Trek yet. And we had
Leva Bates.
we had to not talk during interviews, so it was me and my commentary partner just sitting there going like, why is she dressed like Star Trek? Why is she holding this? And then Hailey Hatred just beating the shit out of her. But Sara Del Rey is one of the wrestlers in America who can stand up to such a force. And besides which, Sarah came dressed to wrestle.
Thank you.
And Hailey came dressed for a My Chemical Romance concert.
So my favorite line in commentary is that them alluding to Sarah, or to pointing to, the quote was, Hailey is dressed like she's ready for a night on the shore. And Sara Del Rey is wearing her gear. She's all business all the time. It crushed me in my heart. My wife just burst out laughing when she heard that, when she was like sitting next to me. I'm at the scene right now where it happens. And like, I love that they said that, because like my shock in this is that like, in hearing that she's from Ohio, was that I saw this woman walk to the ring.
Sure.
This was the most Jersey woman I've ever seen in my entire life. When she shows up,
wrestling in low-rise jeans is fucking crazy work.
She fucking rocks.
The tied back like halter style, like cut off shirt. Like, yeah, no, it's a whole look. This match, it fucking smokes.
It does.
It deserves to have better commentary on top of it. Not to go back to that canard, but like when Sara Del Rey is German suplexing Hailey Hatred on top of like a rolled up series of gym mats that have like a metal bar sticking out of them.
Yep.
And the commentator is like, wow, what a crazy German suplex. And also, I swear, Sara Del Rey winked at me while she was doing it.
Yeah.
I wanted to time travel and then travel back to when this match happened so that I could murder that man. I was so mad. Like the first significant move in this match is like a fucking like vertical suplex on the goddamn bleachers of the Rahway Rec Center. And like from that moment to like 15 minutes into the match, all these two guys can do is like, wow, both of these women are so cute, right? Or can you believe that this is going to be the most hardest hitting match on the card? It's between women. I was fucking pissed off. But besides that, once you get past how mad you are about the existence of misogyny in the world, this is a fantastically creative street fight. Like it is a absolute joy. I had a lot of fun watching this. Like there's a lot of like guardrail work that is absolutely crazy and is
so
like
fucking
WCW
good.
Cactus Jack levels of nuts. Like Sarah at one point like whips Hailey as hard as she can into the guardrail, which collapses immediately underneath Hailey's weight. So Sarah just picks it up and then body slams the guardrail directly on Hailey's fucking head. It's gross. Like I feel like this is one of those matches again where like a lot of people that we know, and maybe yourself included, would say that it would be better with blood, but like I don't know how athletic commissions work in New Jersey.
You probably could get away with it.
You could probably get away with it, but I also don't know how, thinking about the commentary, how comfortable men are with the concept of women running the razor. But like this match smoked. Like there's a part where like Sarah is like one hand overhead, like wailing away at Hailey on top of her dome with like one of those like bouncy inflatable handleballs or whatever that you do like yoga with or like bounce from one end of the gym to the other. Like it's legitimately brutal, but also pretty humorous and like it's so fucking cool. Like the German suplex on the mats is such an insane spot. Like it's one of the most creative matches I've seen in a minute, and I had never I didn't know it existed until it popped up on the playlist. So that's good work on your end.
This is all my sweet Prince Dan Rice. This was a full Dan Rice recommendation. I think Simon also said that it was a good match as well. Can I just read some of this fucking cards to you because I'm swooning. You have Corvus Fear and Mike Quest versus the Switchblade Conspiracy to open.
Oh God.
You got Nick Gage versus Drake Younger.
Mm-hmm.
You got Havoc and Monster. What'd you say?
Welcome back, Drake Younger.
Yeah, welcome back, my sweet fucking awful Prince. You have Havoc and Monster Mac versus B-Boy and Eddie Kingston. The match before this was Necro Butcher and Chris Dickinson. After this match, you have Mia Yim and the Southside Players Club versus Antisocial and Amasis and I'm not going to be able to pronounce that.
Amasis and Ophidian, the
Osirian
Portal. Wow, I haven't thought
Portal.
about Antisocial in so long.
Hold on, we get better from here. After that, Samoa Joe defeats Kazuchika Okada in 6 minutes. Followed by the Young Bucks, 6 minutes. followed by the Young Bucks versus Jack Evans and Teddy Hart. Main evented, Dan Maff defeats Brody Lee for the JAPW heavyweight title. What the fuck?
That's a fucking card, baby.
This
That's
fucking
a fucking card.
This is a fucking card. This got a little bit for everybody, including if you're racist and sexist. This is fucking nuts.
And if you can believe it, Orchid, if you can believe it, to quote David Lynch, this is the hardest hitting match of them all, despite the fact that it features 2 girls.
2 women, 2 ladies, 2 girls. No, but they do beat the fuck out of each other. I know there's the Muda scale. I feel like one thing that I would love to invent is a scale. Here's my first attempt at doing it. We're both very, very big Terry Funk people. How do we feel about the pile driver through the table, the plastic table, and where would that rank on the Terry Funk pile driver scale?
I don't know that this would be a good one. It's like almost more of a pedigree.
That's fair. It is a sick spot though, because you can tell they both think it's one of those. It's one of those moments where I
regret getting up on that table.
But you know they're going through with it anyway. It's one of the few instances in which like you see like the concern for their performer's face on each other's face, and they're just like, fuck it, we gotta ride, girl. God, what a fucking great spot.
The whole match is nothing but great spots. Like honestly,
is.
like I will vouch for Sarah versus Mercedes being the most important match here. I will absolutely, like, with a bullet say that, like, maybe short of the match against Kana, that this is the best one that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I mean it's fucking great. And in terms of like making her case, me and you are both like Kroll and Brawl people. Like I think we see the art in it. A lot of people.
I love them.
Yeah,
You're an ECW mutant. I love watching people punch each other.
It's easily the best example, or best early example I've seen of 2 women have a Crawl and Brawl in America.
Yeah. Oh, WCW was a walk and brawl company too. So
but they didn't. I don't really remember them letting Medusa do that much, though. Did they?
No, they didn't let Medusa do that, but they did let Jacqueline do it.
That's fair. They did let Jacqueline do
it. They're the lady in the men's commode.
I would love to hear what he had to say about this match. Jesus Christ. Oh, they're on the table. Oh, they're on the table. The ladies are on the table.
They are there wrecking the DVD.
The discs. Man, put him in front of like a CHIKARA match too. Oh, the masks. Oh my God.
He's some kind of bug. You're telling me he's from Safe Study?
Oh man, I don't fault anybody who stops listening at this specific point.
You told me what completion rate meant for a podcast, and I immediately set out to destroy that.
Fine by me. That's yeah. Well, we don't need to talk about metrics right now. I do that all day. Yeah, great fucking match. Thank you very much to our Violent People folk for recommending it. If we would not have been able to have a conversation about this match, like I would have been heartbroken. The thing I love about it, one of the matches that we have on here is an early one too that I wanted to make sure that we put on here was against cheerleader Melissa, which is also a Falls Count Anywhere match.
It's unintentionally hilarious.
Yeah, completely, right? Because it's a Falls Count Anywhere match that takes place entirely through a ring, in the ring, until they exit the ring, and all you see is the crowd near a garage door. And I missed this. You had to tell me that they get in a car and drive away. That completely. I was just like, all right, on to the next match. Yeah, I did get such a big kick out of it, right? That there are things to talk about in that match that would make Sarah's case, but it just, the evolution of somebody who's like, all right, well, now I've been in this industry for a while. I've worked it for a bit. I now know how to make the most out of, a stipulation like this. And fuck all if she does. Like, I mean, it's both of them just fucking crush in this match. It blew me away.
Yeah. It's astonishing. Like, y'all should definitely check this one out.
I think from here, probably now is the best place to pivot to the CHIKARA matches. Again, I think we should probably save it. And this is, I hope, in no knock to Sara. I think that there are people who need a explainer for CHIKARA to make their case, the same way that you explained SHIMMER to make Sara's. So I don't necessarily think we need to get too in the weeds with like the particulars of, CHIKARA. But some of the best matches in her fucking career will happen in CHIKARA.
I don't think that you need to explain CHIKARA to get into why these are so good, though.
Not at all. Not at all.
Like CHIKARA, yeah. I mean, I can give a brief explainer as to what CHIKARA is. It's another defunct promotion that was largely influenced by Lucha Libre and Chris Claremont X-Men comic books. Those two forces combined led to a lot of very long-term and sometimes convoluted, sometimes joyful storytelling. And I think that a lot like SHIMMER, it kind of functioned as like a separate space from kind of like the more negative aspects of indie wrestling, because there was a very strictly enforced, i.e. there was a swear jar that Eddie Kingston had to contribute to constantly. Yeah. Like, this is a family friendly show aspect to it. On top of that, though, was the fact that between the initial trainers of the CHIKARA Wrestle Factory, where the students who later became ants and breakfasts and bovines and living baseballs and all that sort of thing, where those folks came from, from jump when it was Chris Hero, Mike Quackenbush, and Skida, all the way through to its end, where I believe like Chuck Taylor was one of the main trainers.
Yes,
the Wrestle Factory out there in Philly had like basically like an unimpeachable record as one of the best wrestling schools in the United States. At this point that we were talking about, which for me is the peak of CHIKARA, like the run up to them finally having a singles championship. Like, I think that the head trainer is obviously Mike Quackenbush, the owner, but we can put him to the side, bam, non-factor. The other two are Claudio Castagnoli and Sara Del Rey.
Now, is Sara exclusively training the women at this point, or is she training everyone, regardless of gender?
What women do you think existed in CHIKARA besides her and Daisy Hayes?
I mean, do you need anybody else besides Daisy Hayes? I mean, I'm
a long tenured veteran. No, she was just training, like much the same way that when she was being trained, she was in there. See, all right, the wrestling school, Orchid, does not actually train on the basis of gender most times. Like, if there's a woman who shows up for wrestling school, she is in there wrestling with the dudes, because dudes are the easier marks. Yeah. And that's just the way it is. Like, and that's the same way that it was at the Wrestle Factory, who, like, I think that they notably did not graduate, like a woman from the Wrestle Factory until like around the time of the Joshi Mania shows, maybe.
Okay.
I forget though. And I would like to remain forgetful in this instance. Suffice to say, though, that Sara was one of the trainers at the Wrestle Factory when she was arguably at her peak as a singles wrestler, which also unfortunately coincides with the end of her wrestling career. There are a lot of matches that you can take a look at from this period. I think that the most famous one is her versus Claudio Castagnoli at the ECW arena. But if I talk about how I was there at that match in the front row one more time in my life, I think that an angel will come and decapitate me to stop me from talking about wrestling anymore. So instead, we are going to focus on two other significant singles matches. Those being her very famous match against the woman who is currently known as Asuka in Kingsport, Tennessee, which took place after the middle rope broke, and they replaced the middle rope with the bottom rope because that made it safer to work. But there is a missing rope in that match, and it is not on purpose. It is on accident. And also one of her final matches, which is a CHIKARA Campeonato de Parejas match against Eddie Kingston. Where do you want to start first with her and CHIKARA? I think it'd probably be wise to just start with that Kana match, which again is like one of those things where, like, if you have not seen this match, you are not right with God, and you should get right with God as quickly as possible.
I think one of my favorite, let me see if I could pronounce his name correctly, Metzlerisms. Did I get it right? No. No?
Meltzer.
Nice. Okay, perfect.
Meltzer.
One of my favorite Metzlerisms is he has this.
I don't even like this motherfucker, dude.
I know. I know. I don't either. That's part of the beauty of it. I have to say that, man, did I get into a fight with him on the board this week?
I'm sure that was really difficult to make happen.
It's getting easier and easier by the minute. I figured out the ways to poke both the bears, and I can't stop myself. It's awful. I did promote this podcast on the board, but I also got closer to getting banned. So
for promoting the podcast anyway, or for arguing with Dave?
I don't know if I'm essentially arguing them. I'm just saying inflammatory things about both of them to pick their buttons.
How do you? All right. So for people who don't listen to any of the other Violent People podcasts. Orchid is clinically incapable of pronouncing Dave Meltzer's name correctly.
It's not just him; it's everyone.
Which is why I'm going to ask you how you spell Metzler.
How I spell it?
How do you spell?
Or how does anyone
Dave
spell
Meltzer's name?
Meltzer.
Yep, there you go. You crushed it.
Yeah.
You crushed it.
I think I've told the story on that podcast. I had a friend in grad school whose name was Metzler, and I always called her Meltzer, and she got very upset with me, and I didn't know why it was happening because I hadn't been watching wrestling at that period. So, but since Diana, shouts to you, Diana, you had a pretty fun writing career when it came to writing television, but because of Diana, I'm going to never be able to pronounce Dave's name correctly. Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine ultimately, but it does trip me up when he comes up. So you were arguing with Dave, and this is more important than Sara Del Rey for some reason.
No, this is how we got on this. It's because I mispronounced his name, and you corrected me.
Oh, right. Sorry. It's my fault.
No,
it's my bad.
That's one thing I'm great at. I did grow up Italian Catholic. I do know how to make it somebody else's fault every time. But no,
Irish,
one of
I am, I am receptive to punishment.
Exactly. One of my favorite Meltzer-isms is he has this tendency to declare something as the greatest X match to ever happen on Y soil. It's a thing that he loves to do. He's a man who is incapable of describing what he likes about a match, and instead decides to lean heavily into qualifiers. It's just what he likes to do. I say this not lightly. I am not sure if I've seen a better match happen in America. And if you are the sort of person to sit there and tell me with earnesty that Blake Monroe was involved in the best match to happen in North America, I need you to watch this match 3 times. That's mainly where I was going with this. My apologies, sir. Our little detour down Orchid's mispronunciation way.
Blake Monroe, like the Hollywood Ending match.
The Hollywood ending match is often described amongst many folk as the greatest women's match that ever happened in America.
I don't know that Dave watched CHIKARA.
I don't know if more. I know Dave didn't watch CHIKARA, but I know more importantly, folks who
Rolling Stone and Sports Illustrated cared a lot about CHIKARA at this point in time, and he cares a lot about Sports Illustrated, from what I understand.
And he does care a lot about. I've learned recently that he cares a lot about Rolling Stone. So we're not going to make this a Dave Metzler. Damn it! Every week we fucking find a way to talk about this, man. It's impossible not to. But no, I think it's more important. I care less about him saying that and more about the people who like parrot him in that regard. If you are the sort of person, especially if you're a big AEW fan, you will love this match. If you're a fucking AEW fan, this was fucking tailor made for you.
Also,
it is,
frankly, like more important than any AEW fans that may be listening. If you are only familiar with Kana because of her work in WWE and NXT, this is a good entryway into really the actual reasons why she is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. That NXT stuff, the WWE stuff, it's got its merits. I like a lot of it. I will not, block any of her shine because she's been working for WWE for as long as she has. But like her rare trips to America before signing with WWE were legitimate events. And this, this match and her match against Sarah, at SHIMMER, which I think happened that same weekend, it might have been
a week before.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Like they were both like monumental like occasions if you were into women's wrestling, because it was more difficult at that time to gin up Joshi wrestling content in the early 2010s than it is in 2026, which again is why I'm such a huge fan of Serena Deeb, because I watched her wrestle Kana in Smash, Tajiri's promotion. But like, you should watch this and start working your way backwards, because seeing her develop as a wrestler is also crazy. Like she's like a former hairstyler who I think at one point quit wrestling to go back to the salon and then came back, like maybe because Xbox 360 sponsored her. I forget if that's like the real story or just the one that I came up with in my head. But like it was just like one of those things where like just like with Sarah, really, like for me, there's like a period of women's wrestling like before I was familiar with Kana's work, and then like after. And she blew me the fuck away. And these matches against Sarah, which at the time I did not know were a continuation of a brief rivalry that the two had during Sarah's excursions to Japan, where she wrestled for the A to Z promotion, and wrestled Kana a ton of times, but I can't find any of them. So if anyone has a lead on those, let me know.
Please, for the love of everything holy, if you have a lead on that, join our Discord. Pop over to the Patron Saints channel and I will pay you. I will just say that. I will happily compensate you for that.
It'll happen. We'll make it happen, because I need to see those. I need those in my life. Like I will travel to Japan and I will flip through all the DVDs at Totocon if I can come up with like one of those. I will also flip through all the DVDs at Totocon because that is my life's dream. But that's neither here nor there. I want to see those because these are so fucking brilliant. And it was only recently that the notion of them being like these like crystal clear, like perfect meeting of the mind between like two wrestlers who were so singular and unique that they could only come up with something this brilliant, was spoiled by the knowledge that they had wrestled multiple times in 2005. So like now I need to know what that looked like, because this shit here, I don't know if it's the best match to have ever taken place on American soil, because I don't give a shit about that. Like you look at my like Letterboxd, and apparently I think that like 486 different movies are the greatest movie ever made. And I feel that way about every professional wrestler that's ever wrestled, apparently, based on the thesis of this podcast.
Exactly.
But I will tell you, there are so few wrestling matches like this that exist that, for one, are a emergency response to the ring fucking falling apart. They meant to go out there and wrestle with all the ropes in place, but they did not have that luxury. And they turn in something in this match that I'll just, I'll be nice and say that, like, it puts everything that's ever been on a Bloodsport card to fucking shame. And they're not
by and
necessarily
large.
trying to be fake shoot style. They just can't run the ropes, so they have to fucking wrestle. They have to be in constant contact with each other, and it is so fucking good. You know what my notes for this match are, Orchid? Just in all caps, the word peak 3 times. That's it.
I mean,
and it's fucking true.
You should say it 2 more times, to be quite frank. I mean, you should actually just read your fucking note. I wouldn't be upset.
Yeah, no, this match is peak. It's fucking peak. It's peak. It's so fucking good. You gotta see it. You have to fucking see it. Like, unfortunately, the way that it exists on YouTube is with some pre-match commentary that no one asked for or wanted. But once that shit fades out and you stop hearing the word female issued as if, like, all the Ferengi on Ferenginar were, like, entranced by the notion of 2 women doing something good, you will encounter, like, wrestling nirvana, basically. There is no underselling how good this match is, or overselling. There's just selling how good this match is. This match is fucking great. You gotta see it. You need to see it. This is the kind of shit. This is the kind of shit that WWE pulled a bullet in the back of the head on when they signed Sara and Kana. I will never get over this. I'm so fucking mad about it to this day. But this match took place in Kingsport, Tennessee. That is a crazy place for this match to take place.
It is, man. I have a little bit more extended notes.
Please.
Very few though. I think the thing, I have not done a good job sticking with, like, one of the bits of my thesis here is that I think a lot of the reason why people don't celebrate Sara as much as they should is that she wrestled a lot of incredible women. I think the Mercedes match is a great example. Mercedes Martinez, incredible fucking wrestler. Easily one of the best to ever do it. If she's at level 1, Sara's at a level S, a 1A, whatever the fuck you want to say. There's
That's how tier rankings work.
Exactly. Yeah. But in terms of, like, there are so few women in America at this particular point, and arguably Japan too. Like, there's, like, whatever. We'll get into that in other episodes. Yeah.
Triple Tails,
the 2000s.
They were rocking.
Yeah, sure. But aiming to just say that, like, Sara is levels above everyone in America at this particular point. For me, this is the first time that someone who this is the only match that she has with somebody that's a woman who is on my GWE list. Manami's on there, but that's a different episode.
We'll find those A to Z matches too. We'll find them.
Yeah, we will. We absolutely will. But I think for me, like, these are 2 people who, like, I will actively go out of my way to watch a match for. And I think Kana is somebody who, anytime I want to really get a sense of whether or not somebody in the modern scene who is, like, in their 30s is a good wrestler. Like, I think Shiori is a great example. If I want to, like, actually judge how good they are, I see if they have a match with Kana. I've only seen one match of Kana's that could potentially be described as not great. It's a intergender tag match that she has with Tanaka on her team. No, Kenny Omega is on her team. It's against Hikaru Shida and Tanaka. And it is not a good match, only because it is a match centered entirely around ass play, and it goes 30 minutes. If that was an or condition, it would be a good match. It'd be a good comedy match. This is the instance in which that I'm seeing Sara with somebody who feels like a peer, and she is not holding her own. She's matching what Kana is able to bring to the ring. Kana is one of the stiffest strikers of her generation. Mm-hmm. And there are 2 of the fucking most grotesque kicks I have ever seen anyone throw, regardless of gender, happen in this match. One which is just sort of like a scissor kick on the top of Kana's head, and then just a sort of roundhouse kick to Sara in the corner. after Kana's fucking kick pad falls off.
Yeah.
And I swear to Christ, I watched it, both of those kicks like 6 fucking times in a row after I saw it. And knowing full well that this match is a happy accident, right? As Clay, as you said, the bottom ring breaks, and they can't run the ropes. Like it's not a challenge that they're afraid of running. They don't run away from it.
No.
Instead, they just have what is easily, hands down, one of the best 3 American women's matches I've ever fucking seen.
Because they're
I
fucking
can't wait
wrestlers. They're fucking wrestlers, and they
wrestlers.
know how to wrestle.
Fucking don't qualify it with their gender. They're just 2 fucking wrestlers.
Yeah.
And they're fucking, yeah. I mean,
you know how
I
good this
love
match
it.
is that it's making Orchid sound like a pro wrestling commentator from 2012. You don't have to qualify this by their genders. This is just a really good match.
This is me being, all right, fair.
I mean, but that's the thing though, is like, again, to kind of like, to just kind of think about it, like, that's how much of a sea change wrestlers like her and Kana were at that time, is like,
yep,
it was really, I don't want to say shocking, but it was different to see wrestling presented that way. I think that, like, one of the things about CHIKARA's use of Sara is that, like, it kind of makes, like, CHIKARA didn't import a lot of women's wrestlers all the time, particularly during like the BDK run. And when they did, they were doing stuff like bringing in Manami Toyota as like a dream partner to go up against Claudio and Sara, or they were doing, you know, it's the big pay-per-view weekend, so like let's bring in a bunch of people from like Ice Ribbon or whatever. And it's very great. Like, I'm forever grateful that I got to see like Ayumi Kurihara like wrestle live or whatever. But like, CHIKARA kind of makes an argument for Sara that she is head and shoulders above the rest of the women in the United States of America, that I think other women could have also benefited. Like, I think if you put Mercedes Martinez in this spot, she does pretty well for herself. But like, there's a thing that happens when like a shitty wrestler wrestles a great wrestler and has a great match, where that is presented as proof of how good the shitty wrestler is. And I think that it's more interesting to do the opposite of that and take a look at a wrestler who is unquestionably great and put them up against another wrestler that is unquestionably great and ask, does this live up to the expectation that you would have in your head if these two were to meet? You don't usually get to see that for various reasons, particularly at this point in time. Because, I mean, Kana's 2015 WWE signing was also one of those events that, like, if you would have looked back at the, like, in 2012, if you would have been like, you think Kana's going to sign with WWE? The answer would have been like, they won't sign anyone who doesn't know how to speak Japanese, or who doesn't know how to speak English. But like, seeing this sort of international dream match sort of thing happen in like really the most neutral ground of them all, with a pretty big disadvantage in the ring being broken, and for them to turn out something this good. I try not to throw out star ratings unless I'm doing it on Big Egg, so I won't, but I'm with you. Like, I really do think that this is one of the greatest American matches to ever taken place on American soil, featuring an American wrestler. At least one American wrestler. Like, if we can dive that deeply into specifics. I don't know if I'm doing a good Metzler impression right now. I've really only seen him tweet. But yeah, no, this match fucking smokes, y'all. It's maybe the peak of both. I think it might be the peak of both women's careers, frankly.
Oh man, it's so hard to pick the peak of Kana's.
It's hard to pick the peak of Sarah's too, because there's, I mean, she's got levels to what she's doing. And I think that, like, you know, stuff like the last match that we're meant to discuss, her match against Eddie Kingston is one of those where it's like a completely different look at a wrestler that you think you're familiar with. Like, you see her in like the challenger in a classic, like, almost NWA championship style match that further shades in like how good she is. I know Kana's got a much larger resume because she's been wrestling for a lot longer at this point. But Del Rey, like, she has a lot of classics that we aren't talking about this week.
Yep. Before we pivot to the Eddie match, and I recognize full well that we are at the time constraint that I try to remind you every week that we said that we were. It's an active choice on my own. Is what I'm aiming to say. To go over it right now. I have to ask this question because I feel like this is one of those things that is it just sits on my mind. I'm going to ask you to do it. Make me a case on why Sara Del Rey is the better bastion for American women's wrestling than Mercedes Moné.
Wow. I mean, that's tough because they represent two entirely different eras of the thing. And I think that for most people, they would look at something like box office or television exposure or, kayfabe achievements like championships won and WWE and AEW as signifiers of a wrestler's importance or whatever. I think Mercedes Moné is a great wrestler. I don't know where you stand on her. I
love her.
I think I had her on my greatest wrestler ever list, somewhere like in the between 150 is where she was. Because I happen to think a great deal, particularly about her NXT work and a lot of her AEW stuff that I've seen is a lot of fun as well. And I think she's like unquestionably the best of like the quote unquote four horsewomen. Bailey has a solid case, but I think that Mercedes has a much stronger resume. I would say that Mercedes might be the best wrestler of her type, which is to say like that kind of like reckless sort of like caution to the wind style wrestler. Like she's more along the lines of like a young Manami Toyota than Del Rey ever was. Del Rey is more along the lines of like you're like bruising like Shinobu Kandori style like shooter types. Like I almost feel like the answer to your question is I can't do that because they, if anything, like represent 2 points at which like women's wrestling have evolved and branched out from basically dead earth. Both of them are pretty miraculous in certain respects if you think of them that way. And Del Rey never had the same. I mean, she made space for the sort of opportunities that Mercedes got on the indies. And I don't know how training at the PC works, so I have no idea how much a part of Mercedes' journey Sarah was or wasn't. But like I don't think that you get to the point where something like WWE's like women's division becoming better happens without Del Rey. Like it's not a hypothetical. It's not a question that I can answer.
No. Yeah, I think why I'm asking the question, and it does create a very fun idea for me for the eventual Patron Saints cinematic universe that we will eventually get to. But I think the reason why I'm asking is that I think a lot of people quickly default to saying that Mercedes is the greatest American women's wrestler of all time. And I think that she absolutely has a case. But I think if you have not explored Sara Del Rey's work, I absolutely think you should check this match out. And I think you should reconsider diving a little bit deeper into her matches before you make such a bold statement.
I think Mercedes is an easy number one if you haven't explored much beyond 2015.
Exactly.
But when you do, you start seeing like, cases for other American wrestlers, like, and not even just Sarah, like, there are a great number of like, I think the further back you go, the more Mercedes like falls to being like maybe like a top 5, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like, Awesome Kong exists, like, and
Medusa.
Medusa. I mean, I don't think Medusa's top 5, but like, she's super important. Like,
she's worth an argument, I think.
Yeah, she's definitely, and she's worth exploring. Like, I won't say like you should watch Peggy Lee Leathers because she's not even remotely close to like the top 100 probably, but like, there are a ton of female wrestlers out there who have like paved this road and made it possible for success stories like Mercedes and Bailey and like Charlotte. I'm about to name all 4 of the horsewomen. Becky Lynch,
famously American.
And then the other horsewomen, of course, your Ronda Rouseys, your I can only hear Ronda Rousey's name in like Terry Funk's voice, because there was like a video that AIW did where they asked Terry Funk what they thought about a potential Ronda Rousey Roadhouse thing, and he's like, Ronda Rousey, who the hell is Ronda Rousey? But yeah, like I think that like if you strip it down to just like what they can do in the ring, I mean, shit, either one of them landing in the top 5 for anyone who does any serious research, A, would not surprise me, and B, would not be something that I could argue against. For me, it's Sara, but again, like thinking back to when I almost cried talking about watching her watch the fucking Royal Rumble at like a sports bar, I'm much more emotionally attached to Sarah's rise and her way of wrestling than I am to Mercedes. And I say that as a massive fan of what she did.
Yeah, completely. Well, yeah, again, that was mostly just if you're the sort of person to think that Sarah's somebody you should watch.
Yeah,
like, by and large. Well, yeah, I guess like before we wrap, like,
yeah, I was gonna say we can like, I think in kind of like talking a little bit more about Sara in general, I think that we should probably move to the question. I do want to say though, like, if we are going to skip the Eddie Kingston match, that you and I need to make like a mental note that when we do an episode about Eddie Kingston, probably be more than one episode about Eddie Kingston.
Oh, that's going to be a long one.
it will be a long one.
Yeah, that's going to be
like
a long
he's
one.
He's not on the wheel right now, I don't think.
He is.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
you know, like should we land on him? Like I think that 2-part episode, because I'll call it now, it will be a 2-part episode.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I might need 3.
Like when we talk about his run at the top of Chikara, like this match is one that we need to talk about explicitly. Sure. Again, as I said, like watching Sara be in the challenger role in a classic style of world championship match is thrilling. I'll just say some of the stuff that I like about it before.
No, say some stuff. I don't want to not talk about this.
I mean,
match.
it's just great.
Rocks.
Like it's one of those matches where like if you're unfamiliar with Chikara but are familiar with Kingston, like you'll see like a lot of Eddie-ness in this, like particularly like his, I want to say kind of like his demons coming through. Like the thing that happens in Chikara is that he becomes their first world champion, and he wins it in a tournament that is dedicated to the honor of his friend Larry Sweeney. And that is like a very meaningful occasion. It's one of the peak moments of indie wrestling.
Oh God.
You've probably seen or heard the promo, the High Noon promo, that is, I mean, it's beyond reproach. If this was an Eddie Kingston episode, we would probably talk about that forever. But what happens immediately after that is like Eddie Kingston has been a heel in Chikara basically forever. And being the champion is a heavy crown. You see him in this match, like before the bell rings, right? Like his head is like cocked like all the way to his shoulder. Like it looks like there is like a literal weight like pressing down on him. And it's great. Like there are 2 narratives happening here where like Sara Del Rey is like kind of in like the proto, like she is like the Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, like you're a fucking bum guy in this match, like constantly like taunting Eddie about that. I think at one point she says, "Do you think it's cute that you're the world champion?"
Yeah, she does.
And then like Eddie on the other end of that, he's not sympathetic at all. He is kind of a misogynistic prick. Like he's constantly calling her sweetheart. He's begging her to kick harder. There's a point where Sara has him in like a knee bar, and he like Bryce asks, "Do you quit?" Which you have to as a referee. And Eddie says, "Are you fucking joking?" He doesn't say fucking because that would be a swear jar incident. But you know, he says, "Are you kidding me?" And like every time one of them does that, it incites the other to respond by hitting or striking or like going into a submission like that much harder. Like in the one where like Bryce asks if Eddie wants to give and Eddie says, "Are you kidding me?" Sara gets up out of the move, then kicks Eddie as hard as she fucking can in his thigh a bunch, like 2 or 3 times, and then locks in a different submission hold, like the figure 4, at which point Eddie starts screaming about how bad his knee hurts. It is awesome. Like, Sara spends so much time picking apart Eddie's limbs, which is important because Eddie's finish in Chikara is a strike. It's the back fist of the future or the sliding D. The back drop driver is important, but like it's not his finishing move, not in Chikara. So she takes away his weapons, she takes away his base, and like just keeps picking away at it and picking away at it and picking away at it. And like Eddie like almost succumbs to overlooking Sara, which is something that time has proven is not something you should do. I think that is like, he basically makes the same mistake in this match as Claudio Castagnoli does in the Chikarasaurus Rex main event. But unlike that match, like, it's not really personal, it's just business. So he's able to kind of like overcome his own bullshit and beat Sara. It's a really phenomenal match. My only really issue with it is not anything to do with either of them. It's just that like we're fully at that point in like the yes chant era of indie wrestling. And all I can see, like when I see the dude in the yes shirt, and when I hear people like chanting for Daniel Bryan, like while the label lock is on, is like, I'm like, you guys are just fucking inviting William Regal and Triple H to the front goddamn door of this building and sign every one of these motherfuckers and stash them away in the Performance Center, which wasn't even the Performance Center back then. It was a goddamn studio at a stupid fucking ripoff college. Like, y'all are gonna send Triple H a fruit basket for making this legitimate. But I was able to overlook that. Cause like ultimately, like, both wrestlers are so good at the small things. I do think that this is something that I want to come back to with Kingston, because there's this moment where after Del Rey like wraps his arm around the ring post and kicks out the shoulder and then like throws Kingston back into the ring, Kingston rolls over that shoulder and groans when he does so. Like that is like, that is such specific and beautiful attention to detail that you're only going to get from somebody the caliber of Eddie Kingston, and that you're only going to bring out of somebody the caliber of Eddie Kingston if you were also on his level.
So I just want to kind of just chime in here real quick with, you told me this week that you were getting off the Everything app, and I'm in full support of that. I am not. I like the Everything app.
Please do. We need someone out there.
Yeah, exactly. And I've also learned to, like, I feel like the Everything app teaches me how to pick my battles. I'm often, and also too, how to insult people who are significantly less intelligent than I am. Shout out to every Will Ospreay fan out there. But I saw somebody say something this week that had me, that had my hackles up in ways that I'm mostly better at avoiding. And they said that, an Eddie Kingston match that happened last week was bad because every Eddie Kingston match is the same. And I was like,
that's crazy. That's crazy. Me getting in trouble is like, I see Danhausen take the stunner bad.
Yeah. I'm good at getting out of those types of those comments. I mostly just rile up the Ospreay fans these days. And then just suggest it.
Yeah. So every Eddie Kingston match is the same.
And I thought that was a hilarious thing, because then I had that comment before I had watched this match, and it was about a match that happened in AEW recently. And I've been thinking Eddie's not wrestling as much this year as he has in past years, especially coming back from the injury. But he does have a pretty good catalog of matches from the year. A few that I'm really into. One which Chev was another intergender match that he's playing the bully in, and that's not happening here. And I just found it really interesting to like read that comment when I'm seeing such attention to detail in this match, where like one of the things I always love about Eddie that Sara is absolutely able to do throughout her entire career, it just comes out really well here, where she has like somebody who's a good peer for her in this way, is that there's a narrative in just what in the body in the match, right? Like, and by body, I don't mean like the totality of the match. I mean the physical human body. Eddie will often say like, this is a match where we're working X limb, and here they are, both of them just sort of being like, all right, we're going to take away the base. We're going to continue to work the back fist. We're going to do everything we possibly can to like hit that hand against the ring post or put it in a submission move. And I think that from my perspective, it's just we're fresh off the G1 Climax final happening for 2026, and to me it just is. It's so refreshing to just see workers who are committed to telling a story around a problem that you have to solve with your opponent's body. And I just love how she just works to dissect him in this match.
That's why Toru Yano is the greatest wrestler of all time. Right?
All right, hold on. We're not at the wheel yet. We're about there, right? And I think probably now's a great time to ask the question. And maybe
I think I need to ask you first. I want to
Okay.
hear from you before I go into my spiel. So I will ask Orchid. Sara Del Rey, is she the greatest wrestler of all time?
For nearly half a century after June Byers and Mildred Burke faded from their small spotlights, women's wrestling in America was treated as an afterthought. Despite I got my whole little spiel.
I just prepared statement. I'm so sorry.
I was just making sure my breath was right. I was making sure my breath was ready. I don't mind.
Yeah.
Despite WCW's best efforts to pretend to have a vested interest in taking women's wrestling seriously, for 10 years between the Monday Night Wars and the formation of Shimmer, women existed only in American wrestling television to serve as punchlines and over-sexualized eye candy viewed through the lens of a narcissistic, egotistical sex offender who was too drunk on his own hubris to realize he was actively foreshadowing his own professional demise. This was what Sarah Ann Amato was up against when she decided to make a career in professional wrestling. To call her a trailblazer, I'm getting emotional now, right? I knew I would. To call her a trailblazer is to flatten the enormity of her influence. In an era when women in wrestling and outside of it were being professionally demeaned, when rape jokes and sexual harassment were as in vogue as the politicization of women's rights by Christian anti-choice organizations, she and a few other dozen women set out to change the way women were viewed in this industry. We cite Sarah as the architect of the women's revolution of the 2010s. But to view her as only a trainer is to ignore the totality of the wars that she won in wood panel social clubs like the one in Berwyn, Illinois. Wrestling not for glory, but for the hope that someone somewhere might actually take her and her craft seriously. It makes me so emotional thinking about the bullshit that this woman had to endure. And probably because of her chosen employer, continues to have to endure. She is defiant, prestigious, and peerless, hands down the greatest wrestler ever, and at minimum, the greatest wrestler who has ever come out of this country. That's where I land. Shouts to you, Mercedes. But this woman was fucking incredible. I'm borderline about to cry. I'm blown away by what this woman was able to accomplish. Without her, I probably do not care about wrestling the way I do. Like, it's just flat out. I do not imagine a universe in which I care about women's wrestling, Joshi wrestling specifically, if this woman did not create the amount of opportunity she did for so many other American wrestlers. So yeah, she's absolutely the greatest wrestler of all time. And now that I am going to burst out crying a little bit and go on mute, what say you, Colette?
Yeah, I've also prepared a statement here. I hope that I don't repeat too many of your points, but yes, 1,000 times yes. Sara Del Rey is the greatest wrestler of all time. Orchid, in an era where serious women's professional wrestling was a niche interest within a niche interest within a niche interest, she was for nearly a decade the measuring stick against which one measured others on the scene. A woman whose presence on a card made other wrestlers on the card work harder and smarter. Someone to whom gender did not seem like a limiting factor, at least when the bell rang. The reality was a lot different. In 2012, she signed to WWE, but as a trainer at the Performance Center. This was, I know, a massive accomplishment for her, the culmination of 10 years of hard work in an industry whose emphasis on model-like aesthetics meant that there wasn't much room for her on WWE or TNA television. But I still think it feels like a slight to her and a real shame for wrestling fans at large that the last Sara Del Rey match happened 14 years ago and that we're probably never going to get another. I think with more than a decade of WWE Performance Center alumni behind us, and this is something I would also say about other coaches like Steve Corino and Norman Smiley, whose careers I respect a great deal, it is pretty clear that the art and sport of professional wrestling would have benefited more from having her in the ring as an active performer as opposed to being secreted away to an Orlando gym. But capitalism being the great enemy of art and sport, we got what we got from her and have to live with it. It's a nearly unimpeachable run, full of significant, groundbreaking work that still flat out crushes, more than holding its own when put up against an era of women's revolutions, Hollywood endings, WrestleMania main events, and legitimate mainstream stardom for women in this great sport. Sara Del Rey wasn't good for her time, and she wasn't ahead of her time. She was, to steal a nickname from another wrestler, timeless, and she always will be, to use her own, the queen of wrestling, the greatest wrestler of all time with a bullet. Long may she reign.
Fuck yeah.
I fucking love you, Sarah. You're the fucking greatest to ever do it. I hope you never listen to this episode because holy shit. I don't know. Like, I don't know, Orchid. There's just something about it. Like, it's like, this is the journey of my life, from a untransitioned schlub, being real sad about their prospects in academia in Detroit, Michigan, to being an employed schlub in Raleigh, North Carolina, who misses the way things used to be in the greatest form of entertainment I have ever come to know, at least so far as wrestlers I love go. There are people who WWE has stolen a lot of time from us on, and then there's Sara Del Rey. And if I could delete the last 10 years of AJ Styles matches to get one more Sara Del Rey match, I absolutely fucking would. She's the best to ever do it.
I mean, I was like the easiest. Like, you want to pick something harder than that? Like, what about 10 years of Toriano?
Fuck it. See you later. But he doesn't work. He doesn't work for the Great Satan, so we're good.
That's a good point.
CM Punk, peace out, bitch. I don't care. You can get rid of the AEW shit too. Like, give me one more Sara Del Rey match. If Sara Del Rey ever works any wrestling match ever again, I will book a flight. I will book a hotel room. I will be there. I will be in the front fucking row, and I will be weeping like a goddamn child. Let's spin the fucking wheel.
Spin the wheel. Make the deal. Spin the wheel. Make the deal.
Thank you so much for sticking with us and for hanging out while we wax poetic about Sara Del Rey. But as you know, Colette thinks every wrestler is the greatest wrestler in the world. So this is the portion in our podcast in which we determine who our next. This is the portion of the podcast where we determine who our next subject is going to be. If you have listened and enjoyed the podcast, do us a favor, shoot us a rating on your favorite podcatcher app, word I just recently learned. And in that, if you don't mind leaving a comment, you can posit somebody getting put on the wheel. The full list of folks who are on the wheel is available on our website, patronsaints.club, /the wheel, potentially. Don't quote me on that. Just go to the fucking website. You'll figure it out from there. But, yeah, it's time to spin the wheel. We've got a lot of new additions. Hopefully at some point we'll get to a point where we're reading who those new additions are. But this is not that week. Damn it. 1 week I'll be better prepared. But at minimum, Colette, you get to pick two people this week. I get to pick one person, because the Lord hates me, as does the wheel. And we have not landed on a person for me yet. So, who are you adding? Do you want to go?
Yeah, I'll go first. I'll go first.
Okay, cool.
My first pick for the wheel this week is Johnny B. Bad.
Oh my God.
And Mark Merrow.
Jesus Christ.
They're one and the same. So yeah, here comes Johnny B. Bad. He's as pretty as a picture, and he looks like Little Richard, and he is on the wheel as of right now. Did not like the tone. Well, I was fine with the tone that someone struck with me about being mad that I compared him to Christian, but now I want to watch some goddamn Johnny B. Bad. So we're putting Johnny B. Bad up there on the wheel. By the time we get to him, I will have forgotten entirely about why he's there. And then second on the wheel, I'm going to go with another legend of the women's wrestling game, but in an entirely different light. I think we should just have her up on the fucking wheel because she's great. Dump Matsumoto is my second pick
All
this
right.
week. So we're going with mid 90s WCW and the peak run of women's wrestling in Japan. Just covering all of my bases here.
That's fantastic. I love to hear that. Thank you yet again for adding another fucking WCW person.
He was
We
the
don't have nearly
WWF guy
enough.
too. He was a WWF guy too. And if the wheel lands on him, we will spend a considerable amount of time talking about how he pulls his
Oh, thank
boxer
God.
shorts up above his waist and trots
I can't
around
wait.
like mimicking like being hit with a low blow.
I mean, what way to pivot from talking about somebody who made us emotional like women to talk about Mark fucking Murrow? I mean, that won't be problematic in the slightest. Fucking Christ almighty. All right. I came in here fully expecting. Well, I'm putting a woman on the board. I just want to be fully transparent about that. I am absolutely putting a woman on the board. I'm putting a short woman on the board. I came in here fully expecting.
I'm 6'4". You're gonna have to specify.
Or a very short woman. I came in here fully ready to put Sky Blue on the wheel. I have not yet. I will at some point. I have put her on and taken her off before we started recording. But I think I am very charmed by short women. And I am very charmed by short women who look like they don't belong. And I was incredibly moved by one person during my watch. If not clear, I'm absolutely putting Daisy motherfucking Hayes on the spot. I've only seen one of her.
Hell yes. I love that.
I'm fascinated by this woman.
I love that.
Oh man, I forgot what match it was, but she's just wearing this it had to be an extra small T-shirt that is swallowing her alive, and I need to see more.
Yeah, no, she's astonishing. I love Daisy. I'm glad to have her on the wheel. I thought you were going to say Hailey Hatred, and I was really excited because my mind blanked when I was trying to think of who my first person was, which was going to be Hailey, but then I said Johnny B. Bad.
Fuck! God damn it! I lose again. I cannot wait for this to.
No, Daisy Hayes is great. You're new to her, right?
Yeah, it was my first time seeing her.
Okay, great. Because she's sick. She's so good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Sweet. Well, I think we have. Let me get a total count of the number of people we have. We have 57 people on this wheel, so the odds are not in my favor. I'm gonna go ahead and hit spin. We'll see who we're covering next week. Oh fuck yeah! Oh no! Oh shit! All right, we're getting Can you pronounce that?
Yeah. So next time up on the Patron Saints of Six Sons of Bitches, we will be covering the career of Joshi legend Mariko Yoshida, who has arguably the coolest gear in the history of wrestling. That spider motif. One of my entryways into Joshi wrestling. Though it's been a long time since I've actually engaged with her work, so I'm really looking forward to that. I'm assuming that you maybe are less familiar with her than I am, so get ready.
I did a very deep dive on her a few months ago.
Okay.
I probably watched about 30 of her matches. So this is a pick from Steph. Shout out to the Ghost of Kushida, I think is his at. But yeah, shouts to Steph. This is the first time we're actually getting a subject who is somebody that was put on by one of our listeners. So Steph, thank you for listening.
Me. It had to happen someday.
Yeah, again, the odds aren't in our favor from this point forward. So, yeah, poor Nancy boy. I'll never get there. All right. Thank you all for listening, and check you all next time.